Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. This is Shyam Kaggod here, bringing you the Hindu news analysis dated 25th March 2025. To make the discussion very much comprehensive and to address all of your current affairs requirements, I've taken a total of 13 articles in today's discussion. 10 from the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper, 2 from Indian Express, and 1 from Hindustan Times. And I know some of you who are looking at this particular list will basically remind me that, sir, the listing of Hindustan Times is missing. Don't worry, the article is there in the PPT that is associated with the increased salary of MPs in India. If you like this initiative, do hit the like button, comment, and if you yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Now, before I start the discussion, those who are aiming to ace the 2026 Civil Services examination, you can subscribe to our courses, which is available at a discount of 60%. And once you subscribe using IAS English code, you will not only get the discount, but also get a free extension of up to 12 months. Those who are interested, please do check out by clicking on the link provided in the description below. Now let me start the discussion. The first article, lead article, colossal wastage, that is food for thought. Now what are the important points? Whatever factual information is there in the article, I have given it on the right side. You can have a look at it. But let's understand what is the discussion all about. Post-independence, in case of India, there was a food security problem faced by India. What do you mean by food security problem? Essentially, the amount of food grains that were available for all the Indians in India, the amount or the quantity of food grains was not sufficient enough. And over a period of time, we have been import dependent. We became import dependent. And the government of India used to import a lot of food grains from rest of the world, supply it and ensure sufficient amount of food grains are there for consumption. In addition to this, the government also implemented multiple reforms such as a green revolution, as a result of which, from the situation of scarcity, from the situation of deficit, today we have a surplus in our agriculture production. We have a surplus in our agriculture production. That is, today India doesn't just produce the amount of food grains that is sufficient to meet the food security requirements in India. We are also one of the largest exporters in the global market. And whenever government of India imposes restrictions over export of certain agriculture commodities, you can see the immediate impact of that being felt in the global market, where the prices of many of the commodities will start increasing. Having said so, there are two very important issues that you need to focus upon. Although the article focuses on only the food, let's say, loss or the food wastage, there are two important aspects you need to understand. One is essentially the food wastages, and the second one is food loss. The food loss and the food wastages. Now, what is the essential difference here? Please understand. Let's say this is the agriculture field. Here the cultivation happens. These food grains are transported, warehoused or stored, then sold to consumers. That is you and me. Now, these consumers, including you and me, we will basically use these food grains to prepare food and consume this in the form of, let's say, lunch, breakfast, dinner, etc. Now, the two very important aspect is whatever is produced in the agriculture field doesn't reach the consumers. I'll repeat this. Whatever is produced in the agriculture field doesn't reach the consumers. Why? What does it happen? Why does it happen? What happens here? Let's say we do not have sufficient warehousing capacity. Although I'm saying, let's say please understand the fact of the matter is we do not have sufficient warehousing capacity. That's a fact of the matter. Right? For example, we require warehousing capacity for cold storage. We require warehousing capacity for normal food grains. We require very good transportation facilities. Reefer vehicles, etc. are needed. The problem is there are fundamentally some of the structural issues that are faced by developing countries, including India. As a result of this, all the food grains that are produced, including horticulture commodities as well, doesn't reach the market. These are essentially called as food grain losses. Is the point clear? These are essentially called as food grain losses. Venkatesh, my dear, please have patience. Whatever is your concern, I'll pick it up at the end. Have patience. Now, once the food grain will reach the market, you will go to the market. I'm presuming I will go to the market. We purchase a lot of these agriculture commodities, vegetables, that food grains, etc. Now, the writer simply focuses on the second aspect of the issue associated with agriculture sector. That is essentially when these are available in the market, the consumers, and when I say consumers here, include even the hotels, restaurants, right, lot of these commercial establishments, etc., etc. Now, these particular consumers will purchase these food grains, do not make the best utilization of food grains. There is a lot of wastages. There is a lot of wastages here. How come? I'll take a very simple example. We go to the market. In the process of purchasing many of these commodities, let's say some of the commodities such as onion, vegetable, green leafy vegetables, etc., we will purchase a lot of it beyond what is actually required for the household. One of the reason is somebody might be selling it at a cheaper price in the market. Now we will purchase it, bring it to the household, because the quality of this sometimes might be much lower. What will happen is these food grains or vegetables, etc., will lose the quality very soon. They will be wasted. Now, this can happen. Another example I'll tell you. Imagine some of the guests will come to your household. Because the guests have come to household, we will basically think sufficient food must be prepared. And because we don't know how much is consumed by each one of the guests, we will end up, right, basically preparing huge amount of, let's say, dal, huge amount of, let's say, rice, huge amount of vegetables, etc., etc. And if the guest will basically say, we have already had lunch, I'm not hungry, we are done with lunch already, right? Or somebody who is very, right, let's say, a fitness freak, he might have come in the evening, you will prepare dinner, and this person simply says, I finish my dinner at 5 o'clock itself. And after 5 o'clock, I will not eat anything. And the worst case scenario is, if it is someone like Mr. Manoj Bajpayee, who will simply say, after lunch, I will not have anything. Right? Our kitchen is closed after lunch, right? Next day itself. So in nutshell, the point I'm trying to convey here is very simple. You will prepare a lot of food. If the consumption is, that is, eating is much lower than what you have prepared, lot of it is wasted. Same thing can be attributed to, let's say, marriages. Same thing can be attributed to restaurants as well. In addition to all of this, even at commercial establishments, for example, supermarkets, they do not have sufficient storage capacity. They do not have freezing, right, let's say, infrastructure. And just to keep the vegetable fresh, they will have to run the ACs overnight. The cost-wise, it is much more loss-making for them rather than simply disposing of these vegetables. So as a result of this, the argument is the wastages in India and again globally also, the wastages are very, very high. Now everybody is okay. There are two aspects. One is the losses that we are contributing to, and the second one is wastages. That is one more issue. So the writer simply says there is a paradox, not only in India but across the world also. There is a kind of paradox. What is the issue? On one side, we say we have one of the highest production of agriculture commodities in the world. If I do any changes in my policy, it will have an impact on the global market. We have implemented policies to promote food security in India. But at the same point of time, crores of people in India go to bed without having any food. They go to bed hungry. And one of the reasons why this happens from the supply side is because lot of losses and wastages do take place in India. Right? Everybody is okay? Right? Everybody is okay. Now somebody will say, sir, if I have to write a descriptive answer, I will have to write data. Where is the data? Give me data. My dear, please have a look at the data that I have provided here. And this is there in the article as well. United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. There is a report which has been published by the title Food Waste Index Report, FWIR 2024. According to this report, the overall wastages in the global market of food on annual basis is more than 1 billion tons. More than 1 billion tons of wastage of food happens annually. Per capita, in case of India, per household, annually how much is the wastage? One of the highest in the world, 55 kgs per year. Per year, 55 kgs of food is wasted in India. It is not the highest in the world, but again, it is not the lowest as well. Compared to USA, compared to China, it is lesser. But 55 kgs per household wastage per year, that's very, very high amount of food wastages. And what is the issue? Because of this, what is the problem now? Look at the arguments. The problems or the concerns associated with this wastage are: 1, we have a huge population doesn't get access to food. 2 square meals a day, they are not able to afford. Now just think of it, if you can address the losses issue as well as the wastages issue, don't you think the availability of food grains or the food in the market would be much better compared to what it is today? Think of it. If I can address whatever losses that we are incurring, right? For example, let's say we are not having scientific storage, no proper transportation, right? Excess purchasing from the household, the hospitals, or let's say the restaurants purchasing huge amount of food, not able to sell and simply disposing of, etc. If we can essentially plan all of this, the whole supply chain is planned accordingly, don't you think the availability of food grains in the market would be much better compared to what it is today? This will ensure the prices will be much more moderate. And if the prices are much more moderate, don't you think certain population which is not able to afford the food now will be able to afford it? So the availability and affordability of the food grains will automatically improve. That is one of the concern, one of the problems today. Second concern, second problem or second concern is this wastages that we are doing. The wastage that we are doing, that is in case of Indian households, it accounts for around 10 to 12% of total urban waste. I'll repeat this, or municipality waste. The wastages that we are doing here at the household level in India account for around 10 to 12% of total municipality waste. And what generally happens is the municipality will collect all of this. They will put it in a dump yard, and without the oxygen, there is certain activity that is happening. As a result of this, right, please have a look at this. As a result of this, lot of methane emissions will happen. Right, lot of methane emissions will happen because of, right, let's say this kind of a disposal of food wastages. For example, multiple times you must have seen in certain regions where there's a dump yard, suddenly there is a fire breaking out in these dump yards. Lot of smoke will be emitted, etc. One of the reasons why it happens is methane gas is emitted. And when methane gas is emitted, what is the cause behind it? Lot of these food wastages are basically dumped, oxygen is not available, breakdown happens, and the methane gas is emitted. And not just this, the writer simply says, if the food wastage itself was a country, that is, when you look at emissions which are done by, let's say, the countries around the world, India is one of the largest emitter of gases, by the way, one of the largest emitter in the global market. if you put together emissions that are happening because of the food wastages, the writer simply says this would have been the third largest emitter. This would have been the third largest emitter in the world. After US and China, the food wastages emissions would be the third largest in the global market. That is to the extent of environmental impact that is being caused because of food wastages. And as a result of these kind of emissions, there will be climatic changes, right? Unseasonal rainfall might happen, right? There might be certain impact on agriculture production as well. So these are various issues or concerns which have been raised by the writer regarding the wastages of food grains or food that is happening not only in India but across the world as well. Now come to the next point. What is the solution then? What should be the way forward? What should be the solution? Basically, the argument is we'll have to follow a multi-stakeholder approach. Multi-stakeholder approach. There is not just one stakeholder who has to participate. All the stakeholders have to participate. Who are the stakeholders? The government, you and me, that is the society, right? Let's say the commercial establishments, the educational institutions, etc. Everybody has to contribute to this particular problem of food wastages in India. How so? Let's start. The government of India, on its part, should promote the development of infrastructure in India. Again, I'm talking about both losses as well as wastages here. Government should promote development of infrastructure. For example, warehousing infrastructure. Government should provide subsidies for those particular companies or those commercial establishments who will try to take care of these kind of food wastages. For example, let's say an entity will develop an app. This app will basically promote, right, let's say food planning or meal preparation planning. This will promote, let's say, the collection of waste food or let's say the food that is the leftover food, etc. So these kind of apps should be promoted by the government. In fact, there are some, but these are not very, very famous in case of India. Right? So these are some of the things that the government of India has to do. What about you and me? What about, right, you and me? We are also very important stakeholders. All of you will agree? Anybody in the class will simply say, sir, I've never wasted food in my life. Many of the times you people, including me by the way, I'm not above, right, let's say everybody else, I'm in the same pedestal as you. So essentially we might have wasted, right? We might have wasted a lot of food grains. A lot of times we will basically serve or we will be served by others more than food that we can consume. So why not take care of all of it? When the food is being prepared in the household, why not plan it according to the number of members, what is the consumption, etc. Why not store the food? If it is left over, why not store, keep it in the fridge, prepare, let's say, any other item in the next day. For example, many of the middle income households do this, including mine and including yours, I know this. For example, if the rice is left over last night, what we do? We basically prepare lemon rice, we prepare chitrana next day and eat it. So essentially the argument is don't waste. Please do not waste the food. It takes a lot of time, lot of resources to develop these particular food grains. For example, a grain of rice. It's not that we will sow today and we will get a grain of rice tomorrow. It takes 90 days, 100 days, etc., etc. And it will include or it will involve lot of consumption of natural resources. Land is involved. Fertilizers are involved. Right? The farmers, right? Efforts are involved. A lot of this is involved to cultivate food grains. That is the precise reason we as a household or consumers will also have to be mindful about our food preparation, consumption, storage, and let's say utilization over a period of time. And finally, what about, let's say, the educational institutions? Why not basically provide this kind of information or education to the children when you can groom them, when you can basically install a lot of this information at the childhood level itself? Why not provide all of this information to the children, right? So that when they grow up, assuming they will grow up to become good citizens. When they grow up, they will basically, right, remember all of this. They will realize what is the importance of this, and they will not be wasting a lot of this food. Done? So this is the recommendation that you need to provide regarding, let's say, a question that might be asked, right, in hunger or under the poverty or even under the essay paper, or for that matter, look at a question that I've given for answer writing practice here. The food wastages encompasses resource mismanagement, moral environmental failure, discuss the causes and recommend way forward. 15 marker question, 250 words. Those are asking what is chitrana, my dear. It is a lemon rice. That's it. It's lemon rice. Nothing, right? Absolutely no difference. It's lemon rice in southern part of India. How is it a moral failure? My dear, I'm supposed to be mindful about others also in the society when I waste my food grains. I'm supposed to be mindful about the kind of resources that have been consumed to produce this grain of rice. Is it not my moral failure when I waste a lot of these food grains? Okay, next article. China ties, beware conciliation without deterrence. There is an article which has been provided. Most of the discussion in the article is surrounding the defense issue. That is basically the argument is have open approach towards China, but at the same point of time have deterrence as well. But this article will give you only one-sided argument. Let me add another aspect to the article. I've taken one very small article, which was one full page in yesterday's Indian Express. A very small article. This article talks about the movement or the kind of, let's say, change in the, let's say, India and China relationship that has happened in the last, let's say, 6 to 8 months, and what might you can expect in the coming days regarding India-China trade ties. I'll club both of these articles and have a complete discussion. Listen to me carefully. Point number 1, India and China both are important trading countries or trading partners. Can anybody deny this particular fact? Please do let me know. These are trading partners, and for India, right, China is a very important trading partner. Defense-wise or security-wise, you might have a different attitude altogether, and nothing wrong with that, right? Because there is a security issue between India and China, but trade-wise, there is no way that global market, or for that matter, even India, can decouple from China. Decouple in the sense, can you become completely independent of imports from China? Think of it. Can you completely be dependent on rest of the world to supply all the required raw materials to India as a production of goods and services? Right now, this is not possible. Right now, this is not possible. Future, what happens, I also don't know, you also don't know. And if somebody says, sir, I know what will happen in the future, please drop in your email ID, send me your mobile number, I'll forward it to the Government of India, specifically to Finance Ministry, because they would want to consult you. Okay, point number 1, trading partners. Point number 2, at the same point of time, there are also certain security issues that is involved or that is present between both of these particular countries. For example, one point that you need to remember is the 2020 Galwan clashes. 2020 Galwan clashes. As a result of these particular Galwan clashes, around 20 soldiers, Indian soldiers, passed away or were killed during this particular clashes. After that, the trade relations and other forms of relations between India and China took a hit. Basically took a hit. For example, Government of India cancelled the flights to China, direct flights to China. Many of the apps of Chinese origin which were working in India, they were not allowed to operate in India. The talks which were happening between India and China at secretariat level, that was also cancelled. So essentially, the relations, the bilateral relations took a back step, took a hit after the 2020 Galwan clashes. But in recent times, especially in the second half or after the second half of the financial year, or let's say the calendar year 2024, now there are multiple events that are happening which are basically indicating that we are moving towards a normalization. We are moving towards normalization. These are not at normal. We are moving towards normalization. For example, there was the NSA talks that were held between India and China. The points of friction, right? Let's say the point of friction in the Galwan clashes. From there, the military was asked to move back, and the head of China as well as the head of India held consultations in multiple international organization talks, etc. So there is a movement towards normalization. Having said so, there are two very important aspects that you need to consider. One, regarding the trade, and second, regarding defense and security. One is regarding the trade, second one is regarding defense and security. Now, whether you like it or not like it, because of, right, let's say the events that are taking place in the Western countries, now there is a need for a normal relations to exist between India and China. And this is not me who's saying this. Before you people jump and start accusing me of, right, let's say anti-Indian activities, etc., etc., the External Affairs Minister, mind you, the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jai Shankar, has stated that it is common sense. It is common sense for India to have stable relations with China. It is a common sense point that we should have, because these are, right, these two countries are neighbors. These two countries are trading partners. There are disputes, yes, but it is a common sense to have for India to have normal relations or stable relation with China. So what are the things that you should look out when you talk about trade as well as the defense and security? One, we are dependent on USA. Just like we are dependent on China for, let's say, access to raw material, our exports, access to finished goods, etc., we are also dependent on USA. In what way? We get lot of intelligence. We get lot of intelligence from USA. And this intelligence especially becomes handy, becomes important whenever you talk about border issues or border disputes between India and China. And we always expect USA to take our side. We always expect USA to be on our side if there is any dispute between India and China. But now there is a change in the dispensation, or let's say the government in USA. The new administration is not believing in the old structures. For example, the Trump administration, unlike, let's say, Biden administration, doesn't believe in old agreements, old power structure, etc. The best example is what happened between Russia and Ukraine. What happened between Russia and Ukraine? Right? We know what has been happening for the last 3 years between Russia and Ukraine. But once there was a change in the administration in USA, what the new administration did was they basically arm twisted Ukraine. They withheld supply of funding. They threatened that they will not provide any intelligence, which is badly required by Ukraine to have a war or to fight war with Russia. And basically, in order to get certain economic concessions from Ukraine, they basically ensure that they arm twisted Ukraine and made it agree to the conditions for the peace deal. Now, what is the final contours or what are the final points in the peace deal? You'll have to wait and see. But the way the head of Ukraine was treated, the way Ukraine was arm twisted, it is pretty much clear USA will only worry about itself, nobody else. It's always going to be worried about itself. Now, can you apply the same logic if something happens between India and China? If something happens between India and China, what is the guarantee? What is the guarantee that the new administration USA will take Indian side? What if in order to protect their power, their relations with China, they might end up agreeing on the other side, jumping on the other side? So argument is, there is a term mentioned here, three-body problem. three-body problem, right? Again, not specifically required for UPSC, but the heading that has been used by the writer is the three-body problem. Essentially, the three-body problem is associated with, let's say, physics, where when there are two bodies, very easy to estimate and calculate everything. But suddenly there are three bodies in the mix, the whole system becomes chaotic. The whole system becomes chaotic. That is essentially called as a three-body problem. So the argument has been explained using these three countries, that is India, China, and let's say USA. Right? So argument is, no, don't be too much dependent on USA. The new administration may not come to your support. They will look at their own gains. They will be worried about only America first. In that particular sense, having stable relations with China essentially will work in favor of India. Is this particular point regarding defense and security clear? Now, in addition to this, normalizing the relations doesn't mean that government of India should do away or reduce expenditure on defense. Understand this. The writer also says normalization or having normal relations, stable relations with China should not mean government of India should reduce its expenditure on defense. No. In fact, the expenditure that we have done in the last 1 decade, the defense expenditure from the government of India side is in the range of 2.4% to 2.8% of India's GDP. But in absolute terms, it is much lesser compared to what China is spending. Because China's GDP is much larger. I hope you understand. Many of you will basically read this in the newspaper. Let's say 2.4% of India's GDP. And the newspaper also says China's expenditure in defense is 2% of GDP. And you'll become very happy. India is spending more than China. My dear, China's GDP is much larger compared to India's GDP, which means in absolute terms, they are spending huge amount of money compared to what we are spending in defense. Done? So expenditure should be increased because the development of defense infrastructure is not done overnight. It will take a lot of years, lot of efforts have to be put in to have, let's say sustainable or to have very appropriate, efficient defense installments or infrastructure which will be acting as a deterrence against any future, let's say anti-Indian activities that could be conducted by China. Done. So this is on one side, defense and security. What about trade? What about trade? Right. For example, Lalita Prasad Yadav is saying, what is the use of China? How China will help us? I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that only now. Why should we have normal relations? Right? Argument is trade. Right? Again, one of the argument. Another argument is you can use your negotiations with China as a bargaining chip with USA. You can simply say, just see, because you did not negotiate with me, you are imposing tariff on my products, you are making my life difficult, I'm moving more and more towards China. And historically, if you see, there is always a friction between USA and China, irrespective of any kind of administration that is there in the USA. So come to the trade now. What is the issue with trade? Simple. India's trade with China is important for us. Important for us. Why? The total bilateral trade is more than $100 billion. But at the same point of time, India has a huge amount of trade deficit. India has huge amount of trade deficit. So what should be done? Because we cannot simply allow to continue to have trade relations with China where trade deficit is widening and trade deficit is very large at the same point of time. Understand, there are two problems that India has with China in case of trade. One problem is there is a trade deficit. There is a trade deficit which is very big trade deficit to the extent of $70 billion, $80 billion, etc. And second problem is this trade deficit is not constant. It is not stagnant. From 1 year to next year, the trade deficit has been increasing. It has been only increasing over a period of time. So these are the two problems that India has to have trade relations with China. But can you ignore China in terms of trade? That is not possible as of now. So what is the solution then? Solution is India might negotiate, India might hold consultations with China, and the article is also saying, many news reports are also saying, China is open to this. That is, attract more and more investments in India. Attract more and more investments in India. But at the same point of time, I cannot simply only attract investment. I'll have to provide them with certain returns. Returns in the sense, I will have to give some concessions in return to China. For example, very recently, there has been a discussion regarding allowing Chinese, let's say, experts to enter into India. There was a problem with the visa. The Minister of Home Affairs was not allowing the visas to be issued, right, to these technicians. We can basically allow them to get more access in terms of easy visas. Lot of, right, let's say, restrictions have been imposed on the electronics which are coming from China into India. For example, quality control orders have been imposed. Can we relax some of these applications of quality control orders so that imports will also come into India? So essentially, I hope you understand, it is give and take. I'm not saying only India has to give concessions. It is give and take, right? That is basically the argument that is happening in the context of trade. Done? Everybody is okay? So I've discussed two aspects here. One is regarding defense and security. Second one is regarding trade. Now, whatever I've said regarding trade, these are being discussed at the government level. These are being discussed at the government level. Whether it will happen or not happen, let's wait and watch. Okay, because Nitin says, or Nitinji says, nahi ho sakta hai. Right? Whether it will happen or not, you will have to wait and see. But this is what is being provided as a solution, because please understand, the global structures, the power structures in the global market are not remaining same, especially because of Mr. Donald Trump, right? It is not same. What it was earlier, it is not the same. You cannot be dependent on USA like you depended on USA earlier. Okay. Now, I've given an MCQ here. Consider the following statements. The total bilateral trade between India and China has consistently increased in the last 5 years. India's trade deficit with China consistently increased in the last 5 years. It is the trend-based question. What is the right option? Do let me know. I'll give you the key answer at the end of, right, let's say, discussion. Next article. The central government has issued guidelines to tackle the MGNREGA job card deletions. MGNREGA job card deletions. Now, what is the issue here? What is the discussion that has been happening? In the last 1 year, there has been a discussion regarding the deletion of MGNREGA job cards. Right? What is this MGNREGA job card? Essentially, the household in a rural part of India, if the members of the household want to get job opportunities, or let's say wage opportunities under MGNREGA, there will be a job card created. The members who want to participate, right, that will be mentioned in the job card, and using the job card, they can get jobs or MGNREGA wage opportunities in the area. Now, in the last 1 year, this has been in the discussion for a simple reason. Government of India from last year announced that all those people who are working under MGNREGA, all the people who are working under MGNREGA, their accounts have to be connected. Right? Because the government of India introduced, right, or mandated a concept of payment, that is Aadhaar linkage. Aadhaar linkage, right, using which the payment would be done into the bank account of the MGNREGA wage workers. But to be very precise here, please understand, right, be very precise here. The government of India, that is in the month of December 2024, when this question was asked to the Rural Development Minister, right, Minister of State to be very precise, the clarification was that if there is no linkage, that is Aadhaar based payment system, there is no linkage of the MGNREGA wage worker, that doesn't mean that the job card would be cancelled. Is my statement clear to all of you? The Minister of State for Rural Development clarified that if there is no Aadhaar based payment, right, let's say system linkage of the bank account of MGNREGA wage worker, that doesn't mean that the job card would be cancelled. They will continue to have a job card. They will continue to get the wage opportunities. Point number one. Point number two, under what circumstances, under what instances the job cards will be cancelled? Right? What are the circumstances? For example, let's say there is a duplicate job card. There is a duplication, right? One household will have multiple job cards. They'll keep on getting jobs or MGNREGA, right, employment opportunities. Because mind you, under this 100 days of jobs are 100 days of wage opportunities are provided. But if I have multiple job cards throughout the year, I can be getting wage opportunities under MGNREGA. Right? So if there is a duplication, then the job card will be cancelled. If there is migration, migration from what? From rural India to urban India. In search of, let's say, better opportunities, if the whole family has got shifted from village to, let's say, city, or, right, the son or daughter has become an IAS officer now, all of them will be shifted to bungalow now, IAS bungalow. Now, what is the need for having a MGNREGA job card? That will be cancelled, right? Or imagine there is only one person from a household who is listed in the job card, and this particular person passes away, right? The beneficiary passes away. In such case, because there is only one beneficiary under MGNREGA within this particular job card, the job card will not be required. So there are multiple instances citing which more than 30 lakh job cards, mind you, more than 30 lakh job cards have been cancelled by the government in the last 1 year. In 2024, more than 30 lakh job cards have been cancelled. And if you put together in multiple years, more than 10 crore job cards have been cancelled by the government, citing multiple reasons like this. But on the other side, there was a discussion where basically there was a misinformation saying that because of Aadhaar based payment system, because of ABPS has been introduced, people have not been able to connect their accounts, hence their job cards have been cancelled. The government clarifies this is not true. Even if there is no linkage with ABPS, the job cards have not been cancelled. Now, what is being discussed in the article here? In addition to all of this, what is being discussed? Right now, the central government has issued guidelines. Right, a 10-page guideline has been issued. You don't have to read all the 10 pages. What is the central government saying? Henceforth, if there is a need to cancel a job card, what is the process to be followed? What is the process to be followed in order to cancel a job card? That particular process has been put in the form of a document which shall be followed at every Gram Sabha level. Now, every Gram Sabha level, there has to be a process that has to be followed. For example, the new rules say twice in a year, there shall be meetings held in the Gram Sabha level. And during this particular meeting, the Gram Sabha members have to identify people whose job cards will be cancelled. And the representatives, or let's say the members of Gram Sabha, will have to tell on what grounds the job cards are being cancelled. And there will be also a process of appeals. Right? The review of the decision shall also be provided for. In addition to this, now there is also discussion, can a person who willingly said, I do not want to work under MGNREGA, and the job card was cancelled, now can the job card be reactivated? Can the job card of this particular person be reactivated? Is it allowed? Yes. The government simply says, in addition to all of these particular rules, a person who willingly said doesn't want MGNREGA job, now wants to work under MGNREGA, there is a system. Right? That particular system is, right, have a look at this. There is a platform, or let's say e-governance system that has been developed by Government of India. And by Government of India, there is an authority by the name of NIC, National Informatics Center. And many of you will simply say, sir, you are giving the answer by yourself. No worries, because I need to explain this. Right, so there is a platform which has been developed, e-governance system that has been developed by NIC, National Informatics Center, by the name of NGNREGA Soft. Using this particular NGNREGA Soft, if a person whose job card was cancelled, if it has to be reactivated, can be done by the state government authorities. Can be done by the state government authorities. So these are certain important points which have been mentioned in this article, but here only there is a discussion regarding the 10-page guideline. 10-page guideline which has to be implemented. Done? Okay. So here is an MCQ. Another MCQ for you. MCQ number 81. Please have a look at all the 3 statements. How many of the statements are true? Do let me know in the chat section. If not, don't worry. I'll give you the answer at the end of the discussion. Okay. Now, next article. I've taken this from Indian Express. Today's Indian Express. Very important article as far as I'm concerned. The Supreme Court of India has set up a task force to address the mental health issues faced by the students and how can we prevent suicides. In the last 1 year, I'm pretty sure all of you have seen this, heard of this, or read about it. At multiple instances, week after week, month after month, we keep on coming across a devastating news of students committing suicides. Some students are not able to manage the kind of a mental pressure they are facing. Some students are being bullied in colleges, schools, ragging is happening. Because of that, they are basically, right, committing suicides. In certain cases, there is a difference in opinion in terms of, let's say, political, belief, or religious practices are different, or, right, a sexual orientation is different. For multiple reasons, month after month, these kind of cases are cropping up in India. As far as I'm concerned, it's a matter of shame when Supreme Court of India simply says, we are seeing more number of students committing suicides compared to number of farmers committing suicides in India. Both are shameful. Farmers committing suicides because they are not able to generate sufficient amount of money to repay, right, let's say the loans that they have taken. Students committing suicides. So what is the solution then? The Supreme Court of India, have a look at this, now says we will set up a 10-member task force. Right, the government of India, right, understand this. So far, government of India, they have not given any kind of announcement. Supreme Court of India now says they will set up a task force, right, 10-member task force which has been set up, and this will be headed by the former Justice S. Ravindra Bhatt. This task force will basically conduct, right, let's say the survey, they will conduct the study, and in 4 months, they are supposed to submit, right, a preliminary report, and in 8 months, they are supposed to submit a complete report. They are supposed to submit a complete report in 8 months. Done? Now, what would be done by the task force? Essentially, one, they will look at what are the causes. What are the causes that is driving the students to commit suicides? What are the causes? Right? Is it basically a financial issue always? Is it, right, a caste issue? Is it a tribal issue or ethnicity is different? Is it ragging? Right? What are the causes? Why many of these particular students who are supposed to, right, basically contribute to the society, to their upliftment, to their family, right? Why are they committing suicides? In addition to this, now they will also study the framework that we have in India, the kind of framework. For example, what is the duty of the school administration? What is the issue of, right, let's say the college administration? What kind of, let's say, the procedure, standard operating procedure that we have? In case there is a harassment, what is the process that we are having? Is it functioning in India? What are the drawbacks? Where are the loopholes present? All of these will be studied and recommendations will be provided. Done? So these are certain important points regarding the Supreme Court of India setting up a task force. Everybody is okay? Now, is it relevant for civil services examination? Yes. Interview? Yes. Essay paper? Yes. Social issues? Yes. Right? You can quote this particular data, or let's say this announcement or this order of Supreme Court of India to say that yes, reforms are being implemented. Done? Okay. Next article. Very small article has been given in Hindu newspaper, but as far as I'm concerned, this is an important article. Digital tax to be abolished by Government of India starting April 1st. Right? Starting April 1st, this particular digital taxes would be abolished. Now, what is this digital tax? In 2015 finance bill, the Government of India introduced a type of a tax called as digital tax. I'm using the term digital tax. In the books, in the magazines, etc., this will be referred to as equalization levy. Is it okay? It will be referred to as equalization levy, EL. So Government of India from 2016 implemented, right, equalization levy. And what is this equalization levy? Let's say here is an Indian company. It will use some of the services of a foreign company, non-resident. Non-resident means somebody from outside India. It will use, or customer will use the services, advertisement services of a foreign company. Now, the Government of India simply said 6% tax. If the value is more than 1 lakh rupees, 6% of this particular amount shall be collected by Government of India in the form of equalization levy. Is everybody okay with this? 6%. Sir, how 6% will be calculated? Let's say I want to pay 2 lakh rupees. I want to pay 2 lakh rupees to get certain advertisements published in one of the websites. The service provider, digital service provider, will basically collect more than 2,12,000 rupees. More than 2,12,000 rupees, so that 6% of this can be given to Government of India in the form of equalization levy. Now, right, move forward, right, cut to 2020. Government of India introduced one more tax. Right, Government of India introduced one more tax in addition to this particular 6% on digital service providers, that is e-commerce companies. On e-commerce companies, right? What is this idea? Some of you will say already there was a tax existing. Why this was imposed again? Let's say you pay certain amount to a foreign e-commerce company. Foreign e-commerce company. Now government said there will be again a tax on this. So again a tax of 2% was introduced, and that was essentially called as digital services tax. So equalization levy, digital services tax were imposed, and this 2% was heavily criticized. Why? This 2% digital services tax would directly affect the performance, or let's say the incomes that are generated by American companies such as Amazon in India. And that is a precise reason, after let's say a thorough investigation, the government of USA back in 2020 conducted a thorough investigation. And they basically stated that the report published by Government of USA stated that these kind of taxes, these kind of, right, let's say the taxes, they call these as collectively digital service taxes. These, right, are affecting the performance of American companies. These are mainly targeted towards the American companies. And that is the precise reason Government of India back in 2024 withdrew this particular 2% digital services tax. And now Government of India says we are going to withdraw equalization levy as well starting 1st April 2025. Everybody is okay? This is one of the amendments that they have introduced in the current finance bill that is being discussed in the parliament. From 1st April, even the equalization levy will be withdrawn by Government of India. Okay, so these are certain important points. Please make a note of this. Now, next one. Center concerned over hospitals not sharing organ transplant data. Right? What is the issue here? And by the way, those who are wondering, sir, I have seen the Hindu newspaper today. Front page, there is an article on delimitation. Why are you not discussing that? Front page, there is an article on Justice Verma being transferred back to Allahabad High Court. Why are you not discussing that? Editorial, there is an article on Justice Verma. Why are you not discussing that? My dear, for a very simple reason, from the last, right, let's say 4 to 5 days or at least 1 week, essentially you are reading about Justice Verma day in, day out. Right, you are reading about delimitation day in, day out, etc., etc. That is the precise reason, purposely, not by mistake. I have not become Ghazni, by the way, don't worry. Right, I have not taken those particular articles because I know by now all of you would have become a constitutional expert in delimitation. If somebody will wake up at, let's say, 1 a.m. and ask you about delimitation, you will write an essay on delimitation now. I know that. That is a precise reason. Justice Verma articles I have not touched. Delimitation articles I have not touched. And right, whatever has happened against comedian Kunal Kamra, right, what happened to that particular club, etc. Don't worry, that is again the repetition of what has been happening in India at multiple places at multiple intervals. So same argument every time. So don't worry, you already are experts in all of that. So let me continue now. Okay, so what is the issue here? Issue essentially is this. In case of India, there is a law. There is a law which basically regulates a transplantation of human organs. That particular law essentially is a Transplantation of Human Organs and Tissues Act of 1994. Now here, please understand, according to one of the sections, that is section 13D, it simply says the National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization, NATO, I'll start using the short form, NATO. NATO is the right authority to establish a particular registry of all the transplants that are happening in India. And trust me when I say this, you need a national registry for all the transplants which are happening. But how do you prepare a registry? How do you make a registry of how many organ donors are there in India? How many organ donations are happening on day-to-day basis? How many transplants are happening on day-to-day basis? Which state has the highest, right, transplants, etc.? How will you come to know about all of it? You cannot expect officials of NATO to present, right, in all the states of India, all the districts of India to collect the data. That is not possible. If that was possible, our GDP estimates could have been much, much better. Forget about transplantation data. So argument is simple here. We have a law which basically says all these hospitals which are covered under the law, which are covered under the provisions of the act, they will have to submit the data. They will have to keep on submitting the transplantation data. And this particular data will help us in policy making. This will also ensure there is a transparency in the whole system. Why? If there is a list, there is a donor list and there is an acceptor list, you will have to focus on who is right, let's say in the list at the top. You will have to give the first preference to these people. What if a particular hospital is violating all of these and is giving preference of organ donation? An organ has to be donated, a billionaire will be given the first preference, violating all the rules, violating all the norms. A foreigner who is very rich will come to India. And in fact, they are promoting the idea of a healthcare tourism in India. Promoting healthcare tourism, not this. That is, basically a foreigner with huge amount of cash will come to India. Hospital will ignore Indians and will give the first preference to a foreigner, let's say in heart transplantation or any other organ transplantation. All of these, if you need to maintain transparency, if you need to ensure every stakeholder is abiding by the rules and regulation, you need to have collection of data. And what NATO is saying is this. It is saying that all these hospitals are supposed to submit data to me, but they are not submitting. They are not reporting this data. If they don't report the data, how will I come to know, right, what is happening in the, right, let's say transplantation segment? How do I come to know who is getting the organ, from whom they are getting the organ, how many organs are getting transplanted, etc.? There is no, right, let's say there is no clarity regarding this. And that is exactly the reason why Government of India has issued a directive to all the secretaries of health department at the state level, directing them to direct the hospitals to start submitting the data to NOTO. Done? So this is essentially the update regarding the transplantation issue that has been happening in India. Done. Next article. Interesting article, by the way. Trump slaps tariffs on countries buying oil from Venezuela. Right, in addition to the so much of, right, let's say chaotic policies, or let's say announcement of multiple policies, now there is one more policy that will have an impact on India also. That is essentially, he has announced that those countries which are purchasing oil from Venezuela, now in addition to the proposed tariff, this is the fun part, right? Again, I'm saying fun just so that you understand it. In addition to the existing tariff, now there will be 25% tariff. For example, let's say 2nd April, which he has labeled as a Liberation Day. 1st April is April Fool. 2nd April is Liberation Day for USA now. Right? So now he says from 2nd April, we are going to announce a reciprocal tariff. And imagine under reciprocal tariff, some of the exports from India will attract, let's say 60% tariff, hypothetically. Okay, 60% tariff. Because we are targeting USA exports and we are imposing 60%, he also want to reciprocate. Tit for tat tariff. Now, in addition to 60%, because we import oil from Venezuela, in addition to 60%, now he has proposed 25%, which essentially will take the overall tariff on this particular good from 60 to 85. The higher, right, or let's say the tariff overall will become 85%, which essentially will make this particular product almost twice the price of what they want to export to USA. So I hope you understand the argument here, right? He says, again, you'll have to wait and see whether this will be implemented or not. Right, but again, all of these are basically tactics, right? Tactics so that they will arm twist multiple countries. They will basically want these countries to come to negotiation table, etc. His argument is the country Venezuela has sent a lot of terrorists to USA. It has sent a lot of criminals to USA. And he wants to punish Venezuela for that. So what is the way to punish? Target the countries which are importing oil from Venezuela. And it so happens that even USA also imports oil from Venezuela. Is it okay? Right? Even USA also imports oil from Venezuela. But again, that's a different, right, fact of discussion altogether. So argument is simple here. India, China, both of these countries import oil from Venezuela. For example, back in 23 and 24, India became one of the largest importers of crude oil from Venezuela. We became one of the largest, right, countries to purchase crude oil from Venezuela back in 23 and 24. Somewhere around 1.5% of crude oil requirement of India we purchased from Venezuela. And we have continued to import. So if this will be implemented, no doubt it will have an impact on Indian trade, India's exports to USA. He has proposed additional 25%, right, in addition to whatever reciprocal tariffs he has proposed. Done? Okay, that is one article. Next article, pay hike has been approved by Government of India for MPs, members of Parliament. Even before the 8th pay commission recommendations are given or, right, let's say implemented, the MPs have been given a pay hike now. Right? They have been given a pay hike. I have taken this article from Hindu newspaper. I have also taken one more article from Hindustan Times, so that you will also have certain fun when you are learning this particular concept. Point number one. Please understand, back in the year 2018, when Mr. Arun Jaitley was the finance minister, the Government of India decided that they will have a new policy, they will have a new formula wherein periodically the salaries of MPs would be revised. Automatically the salaries of MPs would be revised. And this particular formula of revision was announced and implemented from 2018 by the Government of India. And according to this particular revision, which was implemented from 2018, the government revised the salaries of MP to 1 lakh rupees. 1 lakh rupees, right? A month, of course, a month. Don't ask me, sir, it is per month or right per year. Imagine a MP in India will earn, right, 1 lakh rupees a year. Some of you will simply say 1 lakh divided by 12 will become 8.333 or 8,333.33333 till infinity, etc. Per annum. Per annum, 1 lakh it was revised to. But to be very fair here, to be very fair to the MPs as well, during pandemic, they agreed that because pandemic was having an impact on overall society in India, they agreed that their salary should be reduced by 30,000 rupees. So argument is now, right, this was announced in 2020, that is the salary should be cut by 30,000, 2020. So 5 years are over. So now we are in 2025, Government of India under the powers. Have a look at this. Under the powers that they have under the Act of 1954, right, that is the Salary, Allowances and Pension of MP Act of 1954. Salary, Allowances and Pension of Members of Parliaments Act of 1954, Government of India has announced now. The salary will be revised by 24%, revised upwards by 24%. Now the MPs will have a salary of 1.24 lakh rupees. 1.24 lakh rupees. Done. Now, on what basis this revision has been happened? That is more important. The Government of India has used, right, let's say index here. The Government of India has used an index that is Cost of Inflation Index, CII, Cost of Inflation Index. This is prepared by CBDT. Remember this. So CII has been used to revise the salary upwards by 24%. In addition to this, the pension has been revised upwards. The daily payment when they participate in the sitting or right, let's say meetings of standing committees, etc., the daily payment has been increased from 2,000 rupees to 2,500 rupees. This is one aspect. Come to the second article from Hindustan Times. A lot of you will be enraged. My salary has been incrementally increased by 3% by the right employer. I am government servant, I'm still waiting for a, right, let's say 8th pay commission recommendation, but now, right, this has been increased. The salary of MPs have been increased. How is that possible, etc., etc. Now, just to give you a balanced argument here, what is the salary of MPs in India? If you compare that at purchasing power parity, that's more important. If you compare that at purchasing power parity, what is the meaning of purchasing power parity? To purchase the same basket of goods and services, how much money do we need in Indian rupee, let's say with USA dollar or compared to USA dollar? How many dollars do we require for purchasing same basket or similar basket, right, in dollars as well as pounds? So purchasing power parity, that will basically equate what can be purchased in different countries with the same currency. So if you compare the India's MP's salary at purchasing power parity, please understand India's MP's purchasing power parity will become 50,000 rupees. The country which has the highest salary, again at purchasing power parity, the country which has the highest salary for the members of parliament is essentially Australia. It is Australia, and the second highest is given by the country Brazil. So when you look at other countries, right, salaries of MPs of other countries at PPP level, please understand Indian MPs are one of the lowest earning in the world, right? They are one of the lowest earning in the world. Done? Right. So these are the two articles associated with pay hike of members of parliament. UPSC may not ask you the absolute salary. Don't worry. They might ask you, is it under an act? Is it provided in the Constitution of India, right? And is it justified, etc.? You can quote all of this factual information to consolidate your answer. Okay. Now, next one, factual information here. Indian Navy announces India-Africa exercise, right? India-Africa exercise, right? So understand this. The Indian Navy has announced two very important things. One, right, in the Indian Ocean region, IOR, Indian Ocean region. The countries which are there in the Indian Ocean region, the exercise by the name of, the Africa-India Key Maritime Engagement. India, Africa or Africa-India Maritime Key Management exercise has been announced. In addition to this, there is one more exercise which has been announced, that is Indian Ocean or Indian Ocean Ship Sagar. Indian Ocean Ship Sagar. So these two exercises have been announced essentially in order to improve, right, basically the collaboration, right, or coalition of the member countries which are there in the Indian Ocean region to provide a maritime support, to conduct exercises where there will be exchanges, right, to improve the image of India as, let's say, some country which will provide humanitarian assistance, etc. These kind of exercises are generally considered. If UPSC will ask you, these are the two which have been announced amongst the countries in the Indian Ocean region, and this has been done by Indian Navy. Okay. Now, I know many of you will be upset with the hike of MP salary. I know. Right? Don't simply say, sir, why do you always compare with other MPs? Why not with a daily wage worker? My dear, who said this salary hike is good for everyone? No. Should you get a better salary? Of course, yes, I will agree with you. Should wages be improved in India? Of course, I agree with you. Should there be minimum wages implemented? Of course, I agree with you. Should my salary be increased? Of course, I agree with myself, although you may not agree with me. So argument is, don't take one point and keep on, right, extrapolating that particular point and trying to link it with everything and simply come to a conclusion, right? You are wrong, I am correct, right? So please understand. Okay, now regarding TB, a couple of days ago, Mukesh sir has had a detailed discussion regarding TB, right? I know he has had a detailed discussion regarding TB. There are two more articles in today's Hindu newspaper regarding TB. I'll just give you updates regarding this. One point, please understand, the government of India basically announced an initiative where they want to basically conduct a genetic sequencing of, right, more than 30,000 TB samples. They want to essentially conduct genetic sequencing, that is essentially identify what kind of a genome they have, right, how the genome will vary from one, right, entity or one let's say mosquito to another, what kind of different genomes are having an impact, in what genome sequencing there is a TB resistance, right, a drug or drug resistant TB is available, etc. To have a detailed analysis so that correct policy can be formulated, correct approach can be taken by the government authorities. Government of India has launched an initiative by the name of Dare to Eradicate TB. Dare to Eradicate TB. This is the short form of this. And the full form is Data Driven Research to Eradicate TB. This has been launched by Government of India back in 2022. And this is basically under the umbrella program. This is basically under the umbrella program where Government of India simply says we want to eradicate TB by 2025. Although the World Health Organization simply says 2030. By 2030 we want to eradicate TB, but India says by 2025 we want to eradicate TB. This is point number one. Point number two, the Government of India now says the initiative, right, the TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan. TB, Tuberculosis Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, which is being implemented in certain areas in India, now will be expanded to cover the whole of India. Right, so these are the two important updates. Detailed discussion already has been had by Mukesh sir, right? I'm pretty sure you have attended that. If not, please look at yesterday's Hindu newspaper analysis. Done. So these are the 12 articles I wanted to cover in today's discussion regarding the current affairs events, not only covering from Hindu, but expanding the discussion to even the articles from Indian Express. Now, what are the answers for the two MCQs that I've given? Consider the following statements. The total bilateral trade between India and China has consistently increased in the last 5 years. I was looking at the chart section. Most of you have given either 1 or 2. That is, some of you said A is correct, some of you said B is correct, some of you said C is correct, and very few said, sir, D is correct. Right answer for this question is D. Let me prove it, just give me a minute. India's trade deficit with China consistently increased in the last 5 years. No. The term that you need to focus upon is the term consistent. And I'll take the table that I've given in the earlier Indian Express article. Please look at these two columns. All of you, please look at these two columns. That is, trade deficit. This is one column, and second column I want to have a look at is total trade. Now please look at these two columns and tell me, do you think either of the two statements are true? Consistent means there should not be any dip. There should be a continuous increase or continuous decrease. Do you see a consistent increase in total trade as well as a trade deficit? No. For example, here, if you see from 22 to 23, there is a decline in the total trade, in the trade deficit. Here, if you see from same, that is 22 to 23, again there is a dip in the total trade and the trade deficit for same 2 years. So, two statements, both are incorrect. Everybody is okay, right? Both the statements are incorrect. Right option is option D, none of them are true. Next one, MCQ 81. The statements regarding NREGA Soft. It is a e-governance system available in online or offline mode and is local language enabled. Yes, right? It is available online and offline. It is also having local language enabled system. That is, you can use the platform enabling it in the local language. Has been developed by National Informatics Centers. I have given you this answer already. Yes. If a worker shows a willingness to work, his or her job card can be reactivated by the state in the portal. I have given the answer to this as well. Yes. So all the three statements are true. Right option will be option C. All the three are correct. Now, some of the questions that were asked in the comment section of my previous video. After that, I will take up your questions. Explain rear and near. Please listen to me very carefully. I have addressed this question umpteen times now. Right? Umpteen times. What is near and what is rear? Simple. Instead of comparing Indian currency with American currency, now you will compare Indian currency with group of currencies. Is my point clear? You are comparing Indian currency with group of currencies. What currency? Trading partner currencies. Who will calculate it? And by the way, both near and rear are indices. Both of these are indices. It's not just a number, it's an index number. Index number represents movement of a particular outcome or particular parameter. So near basically compares rupee with basket of currencies. Rear is comparison of the same but by adjusting for inflation. With adjusting for inflation, that is called as rear. So near basically compares currency, whether Indian rupee is overvalued or undervalued. Rear basically provides information regarding trade competitiveness. Okay. Same question, rear and near, I've addressed this. Can you please provide your views on sovereign gold bond and why it has been discontinued? Very simple. Sovereign gold bond as a concept was introduced back in 2015. These were essentially the bonds issued by Government of India. Sovereign means issued by government. These bonds were issued which had a maturity period of 8 years. But when you invest and purchase these particular bonds, it was not compulsory for you to wait for 8 years. You can simply redeem, that is sell, redeem these after lock-in period of 5 years. Okay. Now, why this has been discontinued? In a sense, why Government of India is not issuing sovereign gold bonds now? Reason is very simple. What was the price of the gold back in 2015 and 16? The price of the gold was somewhere around 26,000 rupees per 10 grams. What is the price of the gold today if Government of India will issue and collect or let's say repay? The price of the gold today is more than 90,000 rupees. So just understand what will be the impact on the Government of India. So when they borrowed, the price was, let's say, 26, 28, or even let's say 30, or forget about it, let's say 40,000 rupees. If these bonds are maturing today, that is after 8 years, or let's say even after 5 years, government will have to shell out more than 90,000 rupees for every 10 gram of sovereign gold bond. So can you imagine what will be the impact of these particular bonds if these are redeemed today on the finances of Government of India? That is the precise reason Government of India is not using sovereign gold bond or issuing sovereign gold bonds now. Okay, as discussed by you, also asked in the last year's preliminary examination, at union level, no demand of grant can be made except on prior recommendation of the President. Yes. What about excess grant for the year 21 and 22? Whatever excess grants are demanded, you will require the assent of President of India. You will require the permission. Done? Okay. So these were the questions. Any questions from your side? Please do let me know now. People will keep on asking questions in the beginning. Ask me now because I'm done with the discussion. Any questions that you people have, ask me now. Monu Chaudhary, Monu ji, क्या हुआ? अरे यार क्या बताऊं? बता दो. हाँ. Sir, what is RODTP and special drawing rights? RODTP, my dear, please understand. RODTP stands for Remission of Duties and Taxes on Export Products. This is an initiative that was launched by Government of India, essentially after withdrawing MEIS and SEIS. The government would basically calculate the taxes which are embedded. Right? Taxes which are embedded. Embedded means which are not given by the government back under GST. Government would simply remit these particular taxes back in the form of duty credit scripts, e-duty credit script, that you can use for payment of import duties. That was the initiative called as RODTP. Okay. CII, Lalita Prasad Yadav, CII, Cost of Inflation Index. Cost of Inflation Index. CII stands for Cost of Inflation Index. What is the use of this? Let's say you purchase an asset. It was there in the newspaper also earlier. Right? You purchase an asset, you sell an asset after certain time period. You will have to pay capital gains tax. But from the time period when you purchase the asset to now, there will be change in the purchasing power of the currency. How do you adjust the purchasing power? How do you address that particular issue? You use right, inflation indices. Okay. Sir, economic theory, what is repo? Repo, Sanjana Gupta. Repo, my dear, essentially stands for repurchasing order. Repurchasing order. What is a repurchasing order? One entity or one party will sell an asset to another party with the promise of repurchasing the asset at a specific price on a specific date. That is called as, right, that is essentially called as repo, repurchasing order. Okay. IAS, IPS maker. Sir ki class regular hoti hai kya? My dear, today I am taking, tomorrow also I am taking, day after tomorrow also I am taking. When I am not there, Chetan sir will be taking, or Sarmat sir will be taking, right, or Mukesh sir will be taking, or Abhishek sir will be taking, or even Astha ma'am will be taking. Right? When I say I am not there, it doesn't mean that only I am taking. When they are not there, I am taking. When I am not there, they are taking. Okay. What is the difference between abdominal obesity and general obesity? My dear, abdominal means when you are looking at the visceral fat, right, generally around the stomach, that is called as visceral fat. You are focused only on that particular area. You must have seen certain people who are very fat in the abdominal region, right? That is abdominal obesity. Okay. What is a current account deficit? Right? Current account deficit essentially is a type of a deficit in the balance of payment, right? Balance of payments, right? What is the current account deficit? In the current account, which basically focuses on imports, exports, and invisibles, other invisibles such as remittances, interest payments, etc. If the expenditure side is greater compared to the income side, that is called as current account deficit. Netra, sir, you have not answered my question. My dear, can you please repeat the question? What is special drawing rights? Under WTO, there is, under IMF, not WTO, right? That is essentially a type of reserve asset which is created and given to all the member countries, which is called as special drawing right. Just like you have value for a dollar, value for a pound, value for an Indian rupee, the special drawing right will also have a value. Okay, done. So let me stop the discussion today here. Tomorrow again I'll continue the discussion, in the sense tomorrow's articles from tomorrow's Hindu newspaper we'll be discussing. I'll bring in more articles from other newspapers as well. Don't forget to join us for tomorrow's discussion sharp at 10 a.m. But before I wind up, if you have liked this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. Share this video amongst your friends, and if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.